Director Tillison, what is your current position?
My current position is the Director of the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department with the Bad River Band.
How long have you held that position?
For almost 9 years.
What is the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department?
The Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department is the natural resources department for the Bad River Band, similar to Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and how Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources works for the state of Wisconsin.
Would you please describe what does MNRD, or the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department, do?
The Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department does a wide range of work for the protection and restoration of natural resources for the current and future generations. Our work is wide-ranging. We have multiple different programs ranging from air quality, water resources, a land office, our tribal historic preservation office, wildlife, our Monoman or wild rice program, among other programs. We operate a hatchery that raises millions of walleye that get released into local waterways to support fisheries. We also review a variety of proposed projects and issue technical recommendations, and we also issue permits and approvals. We also do a lot in trying to restore the health of the wild rice ecosystem.
Is MNRD work limited to the reservation?
No.
What do you review outside of the reservation?
We review proposed projects, policy changes, plans, and other information outside of the reservation, and specifically looking at areas or this information or proposals within the Bad River watershed and the larger Ashland Bay area.
Director Tillison, would you please describe your role at MNRD?
Yes, I'm currently the director of the department, so that means I have a variety of tasks, including administrative tasks, supervisory responsibilities. I also review technical documents and information. I also oversee department staff and review their recommendations.
And how do you interact with MNRD staff?
I interact with them in a variety of ways. I do directly supervise some of them, including our program managers. I also participate in a lot of group meetings and technical discussions. I also review their recommendations, and sometimes we work on group documents together, along with other ways.
Are you familiar with the proposed Line 5 reroute project?
Yes.
And has MNRD reviewed the proposed Line 5 reroute project?
Yes.
Why did MNRD undertake that review?
We undertook the review because of where the proposed project is located within the Bad River watershed in the Ashland Bay area, and because it's our responsibility to do so.
Where does that responsibility come from?
Yeah, that responsibility comes from codes and policies and other things approved by the governing body, meaning the tribal council.
Would you please describe the process for MNRD's review of the Line 5 reroute project?
Yes, so to summarize the process, we spent multiple years reviewing the proposed project. We reviewed the application materials that were made available to us, along with other relevant information and documents, including current conditions of water quality and how streams, rivers, and wetlands are currently supporting uses or functions. We also reviewed documents from the Army Corps of Engineers that are available related to this proposed project and of relevant literature and other information. We participated in multiple meetings related to this project, whether they were internal or external meetings discussing this project proposal.
And does MNRD work with outside contractors?
Yes.
For what purpose?
We hire outside contractors when we need more expertise to help us with our responsibilities or additional capacity.
What does MNRD do with that information?
We review our contractor's work, we ask questions about it, and then we utilize that information and their findings within our multidisciplinary review and things like our technical comment letters and recommendations.
Has MNRD hired outside contractors to review the Line 5 reroute project?
Yes.
Director Tillison, would you please describe MNRD's relationship with the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission?
Yes, we work closely with the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission, or GLFWIC for short. We work with them on a variety of topics, including mapping of streams and wetlands, water quality monitoring, wildlife monitoring, fisheries issues, and also a variety of other issues, including monitoring and controlling invasive species or non-local beings.
How does MNRD work with band leadership?
We work with band leadership in a couple different ways. We implement the policies and codes and plans approved by tribal leadership. We also have the responsibility to report to tribal leadership and seek their approval in a variety of matters.
Does MNRD make recommendations to band leadership?
Yes.
And what is the process for MNRD to make recommendations to band leadership?
Yes, for MRD, our staff will prepare technical recommendations, and those recommendations are provided to me before they are presented to the tribal council. And sometimes I prepare technical recommendations or synthesize those technical recommendations, and those are presented to the tribal council.
How does MNRD communicate with state agencies?
We communicate with state agencies in a variety of ways, including through emails, phone calls, field visits, technical meetings, and technical letters, and we also support tribal leadership as requested in consultations.
And how does MNRD communicate with federal agencies?
We communicate with federal agencies in a very similar way as we do with state agencies. We use a variety of methods, including emails, phone calls, field visits, technical meetings, technical letters, and we also provide support for tribal leadership as needed in consultations.
Did you submit written testimony in this case?
Yes.
I'd like to pull up Exhibit 241. Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Can you identify this document?
Yes, this is the written direct testimony that I prepared.
When you were preparing this document, what did you believe your role was?
When I was preparing this document, I understood my role was to describe my experiences and the experience of the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department reviewing this proposed project and our responsibilities to do so, and also to describe the band's concerns about the effects of this proposed project.
As you were preparing this document, did you consider yourself as an expert?
No.
Can you give a brief summary of your written testimony?
Yes, my written testimony summarizes some of our efforts reviewing this proposed project, including referencing some of our prior comment letters. It describes our concerns about the proposed project and Wisconsin's permits, along with information about current conditions.
Do you reference decommissioning in your written testimony?
Yes.
What is your understanding of what decommissioning means?
Decommissioning means taking a pipeline out of service permanently.
Has MNRD referenced decommissioning in previous comment letters?
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like to clarify in your written testimony with respect to decommissioning?
Yes.
What would you like to clarify?
In our comment letters and our technical discussions, we talked about decommissioning in two ways. We referenced decommissioning when it was talking about the no action alternative described in the environmental impact statement. and that is referenced here in these lines. I want to acknowledge that decommissioning when it comes to the no action alternative, meaning decommissioning of the section of pipeline between the start and end of the proposed reroute. I do want to acknowledge that there is more than 3 paragraphs in the final EIS about it. However, they are general paragraphs and they're still missing specific analysis, including analysis on the outstanding tribal resource waters. But we also reference decommissioning in a different way when it comes to the reroute project itself. And in our prior comment letters, we had stated that Wisconsin should evaluate the full life cycle, meaning the end of life of the reroute project. And we did not see any information in the final EIS about the decommissioning associated with the reroute project.
Director Tillison, do you reference the term adjacent in your written testimony?
Yes.
Are you familiar with this line?
Yes.
Is there anything you would like to clarify in this sentence?
Yes, and specifically to line 25, that line should start by reading not adjacent in quotes, instead of how it's written right now, just has adjacent in quotes.
Does that change substantively change your testimony?
No.
Director Tillison, when did MNRD first learn about the Line 5 reroute project?
In 2019?
Is the reroute project similar to any other project MNRD has previously reviewed?
The reroute project is similar to other projects that the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department reviewed. However, the reroute project is a much larger scale and scope than most of the projects that we review.
Did you hire outside consultants to review the reroute project?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of the outside consultant review?
The purpose of the outside consultant review was to provide some expertise when it comes to issues pertaining to wetlands, groundwater, surface waters, mercury, and other matters. And this information helps our team effort on reviewing this proposed project.
And can you describe what MNRD reviewed of the reroute project materials?
Yeah, we reviewed a lot of materials related to the reroute, including the application materials and including multiple versions of different application materials. We reviewed our expert reports, we reviewed relevant literature, plans, and other information. We reviewed information about the current conditions of surface waters and their ability to support uses and functions. We also reviewed our experiences with Enbridge projects implemented within the reservation boundaries.
I have some questions about the water quality certification. In your role as director of MNRD, do you review water quality certifications for projects?
Yes.
Why does MNRD review water quality certifications?
We review water quality certifications because it is our responsibility to do so. The Badiver Band received treatment as a state under the Clean Water Act for Water Quality Standards Program in 2009.
So as part of your role as the MNRD director, are you familiar with the Clean Water Act?
Yes.
Are you familiar with Section 401 of the Clean Water Act?
Yes.
And is your review of the water quality certification related to that process?
Yes.
Who at MNRD is involved in that process?
Typically, for our water quality certification review process, it's typically led by our water resources program. However, it involves multiple other programs because our water quality standards have uses that dovetail into the other program areas, including cultural uses, wild rice, fisheries, wildlife, among other uses. So after our water program works with other programs, they will synthesize a technical recommendation that gets provided to me for review before it's presented to the tribal council.
Is this a process that is important to the band?
Yes.
In general, why is this process important?
This process is important for multiple reasons, but including protecting water is a primary goal for the Bad River because of how dependent tribal members are and communities are on healthy water. And it's important for us to do this review because it's fulfilling our responsibilities under the Clean Water Act.
I'd like to pull up Exhibit 633, please. Have you reviewed this document?
Yes.
Can you describe what this document is?
This is Wisconsin's water quality certification associated with the proposed reroute project.
And did you review this document?
Yes.
And did the MNRD staff review this document?
Yes.
Did MNRD respond to the state water quality certification?
Yes.
What was that response?
The Bad River Band, through its Natural Resource Department, responded to this document by completing a well effect determination, meaning we reviewed the proposed project and evaluated the potential impacts and determined that the proposed project will affect the reservation waters, including water quality and uses provided by them.
Under what process is the will effect determination? Can you just describe that generally?
Yeah, the will effect determination, this is a process under Clean Water Act Section 401. It's specific to the process of a neighboring jurisdiction.
I'd like to pull up Exhibit 209, please. Director Tillison, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe what this is?
Yes, this is the Bad River Band's will effect letter that's dated February of 2025. This is our letter describing how the proposed reroute project will affect the reservations will affect the waters within the reservation boundaries.
Were you involved in writing this letter?
Yes.
What was your role?
I wrote sections of this letter and sections of the corresponding attachments. I also reviewed sections of this letter and the corresponding attachments that were prepared by other MNRD staff.
Why did the band send this letter?
We sent this letter in response to the letter we received from EPA in December 2024. And EPA's letter from December 2024 states that the proposed reroute project may affect reservation waters.
What information did MNRD review to prepare this letter?
We reviewed a variety of information to prepare this letter, including the application materials that were available to us at that time. We also included our prior technical letters and documents from both Army Corps that are either available through the Army Corps of Engineers or through Wisconsin DNR. We also reviewed information about current conditions of various waters and information about our experiences overseeing projects implemented by Enbridge within the reservation boundaries.
At this time, I move to admit Exhibit 209 into the record.
Any objections?
No objection.
No objection.
No.
209 is received.
Director Tillison, what happened after the band sent this letter?
After we sent the letter, then the Army Corps of Engineers held a hearing about it, and that hearing was held in mid-May of this year. And then the Army Corps of Engineers accepted evidence in writing through mid-June of this year.
And did you participate in that Army Corps hearing?
Yes.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Can you briefly describe what this document is?
Yes, this is the document prepared by the Badger Band. It's dated in June of 2025. This is the summary of the written evidence that we submitted to the Army Corps after the hearing where we presented evidence in mid-May. So this document describes a variety of evidence that shows how the proposed project will affect the reservation waters.
Were you involved in writing this letter?
Yes.
What was your role?
I reviewed sections of this letter and also attachments to this letter, and I helped prepare some of the attachments that were attached to this letter. I was also involved in many group discussions about the preparation of this letter.
What information did MNRD use to draft this letter?
We used a variety of information to draft this letter, including the application materials that were available to us at that time, and prior comment letters, and other documents relevant to this proposed project. We also reviewed relevant literature and our expert reports, and reviewed our experiences with projects within the reservation boundaries that were implemented by Enbridge in recent years.
Was this letter specific to waters within the reservation?
Yes, the focus of this letter is on the effects to the reservation waters. However, this letter does contain information about wetlands and stream mapping at the proposed project locations and also at the areas between the proposed project locations and the reservation boundaries.
Does this letter inform MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
Yes.
Can you please describe how this letter informs MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
Yes, this letter informs our analysis of the reroute project in a couple different ways, including, as we've discussed, how the proposed project will affect the waters on reservation, but this also informs our analysis of waters upstream of the reservation and closer to the project locations, because as I said, and it does include some stream and mapping information in those areas, but also it's reasonable to, based on our conclusions about impacts at the reservation boundaries, where these are locations a little bit further from the proposed project, it's reasonable to know that these impacts will also be observed closer to the proposed project within the footprint and in the reaches in between the proposed project and the reservation.
Director Tillison, did the band attach documents to this determination letter?
Yes.
Would you please describe a few of the attachments to this determination letter?
Yes. We attached case studies that were prepared by the Mashkiziibii Natural Resource Department team. We also attached expert reports and expert opinions, including from Dr. Brian Brandfire. We also attached a report prepared by the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission that describes stream and river mapping and hydrologic connections, among other matters.
And why did the band attach those documents to this determination letter?
We attach those documents because those documents help support and provide the evidence for the band's determination of how this proposed reroute project will affect the reservation waters.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Who produced this document?
This document was produced by the Great Lakes Indian Fish and Wildlife Commission.
document?
Yes.
Why did Glickwick prepare this document for the band?
Yeah, Glickwick prepared this document for the band. One, they are engaged in reviewing the proposed reroute project given the location, but also because we requested technical assistance in our review of the proposed project.
Would you please give a brief summary of this report?
Yes, this report describes some stream and wetland mapping information that is available in the National Wetland Inventory, along with describing the hydrologic connections at project locations, describing the connections hydrologically between the project locations and the reservation boundaries. It also describes contaminant transport and also describes how the current sedimentation rates in this area are elevated above natural sedimentation rates due to human causes.
Does this report inform MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
Yes.
I'd like to turn your attention to Bates page 619. Could you please describe this figure?
Yes, this figure is showing an overview of the proposed project reroute, which is, it doesn't include all the workspaces, but it shows the approximate location of the proposed center line, shown in black and outlined by gray. It shows most of the Bad River Reservation, and the boundary of the reservation is outlined in pink. And then this map specifically shows the high-quality waterways that are either designated high quality by the state of Wisconsin or by the band. And to describe those a little bit more, outside the reservation boundaries, you can see segments of streams and rivers that are in pink, and these show the high quality water designations from Wisconsin DNR, and these are specifically the exceptional resource waters and the outstanding resource waters. And then if you look within the reservation boundaries, you're going to see equivalent outstanding resource waters and exceptional resource waters, but they're shown in a variety of blues. You'll also see a third designation within the reservation boundaries, which is outstanding tribal resource waters, and that includes the Potato River, the Bad River, and also the Kakagan Bad River sloughs. However, since this map specifically focuses on showing the high quality river, streams, and waterway segments, the full extent of the outstanding tribal resource waters that pertain to the Kakagan Bad River sloughs are not reflected on this map.
And does this map inform MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
Yes.
Would you explain how this map informs MNRD's analysis?
This map informs our analysis of the reroute project in a couple of ways. First, it's important to understand which waters are designated as high quality by either Wisconsin or the Bad River Band, as those designations are under anti-degradation policies associated with water quality standards in the Clean Water Act. So high quality waters have more protections, so it's important to understand that, and that helps inform analysis. This map also shows the river mile distances between the proposed reroute location and the reservation for these high quality stream reaches, and that river mile distance is important for analysis, and the river mile distances shown on this map are also complemented by some other river mile distances in the report.
Is information in this map relevant to MNRD's review of the state water quality certification?
Yes.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this map?
Yes.
Can you describe this map, please?
Yes, this map is zoomed into a portion of the proposed reroute location, and we're looking at a portion of it on the eastern side of the reservation. And we're looking at specifically Vaughn Creek area, which is in the Potato River watershed. You can see the proposed reroute project on the, mostly on the right of this image, and it is shown by, like, proposed workspaces are shown in red, plus you can see the access routes and center line proposed. And then on the left side of this image, you can see the reservation boundary, which is highlighted in pink. And then you can see the mapped wetlands in lime green and the mapped streams and rivers in blue that are part of this older National Wetland Inventory data set that was derived using aerial photography analysis, and the scale of that national data set is indicated below the map. I do want to point your attention to, on the right side in the bottom portion of the figure, there is a pink circle around a small portion of the reroute proposal. So if we look at within that pink circle, we can see a small mapped wetland that appears to be isolated in this version of the map.
Let's scroll to the next page. It's 67. Do you recognize this figure?
Yes.
Can you describe this for us, please?
Yes. This figure, we're looking at the same geographic scope as we were looking at in the last figure. So again, looking at Vaughn Creek and a portion of the Potato River watershed. This figure uses a newer version of the National Wetland Inventory data, and this newer version of the data was derived based on LiDAR, and you can see the scale associated with that newer data set. So you're seeing more mapped wetlands in that green color and more mapped streams and rivers and other waterways in the blue, and then sort of the teal color. And then if we look back at that area that's circled in pink of the proposed reroute project, you may recall in the last map, we were just seeing a very small wetland that appeared to be isolated. But with this newer data, you can see that there's more wetlands within the proposed project workspace, plus those wetlands are hydrologically connected to other wetlands and streams and rivers outside of the proposed workspace.
Can you please explain your interpretation of the difference between these two maps?
Yes, my interpretation of the difference between these maps, because they are using different versions of the National Wetland Inventory, this map that we're still looking at is using the newest version of this data. And when I look at these two maps side by side, I can visually see there are more wetlands and streams and rivers and surface water features within the proposed project footprint and also between the proposed project location and the reservation boundaries.
Do you recognize this map?
Yes.
Can you describe your interpretation of this map?
Yes, this map is zooming into a different area of the proposed project reroute. We are now looking at an area that's more south of the reservation. You can see the reservation again in pink, and we're specifically looking at a portion of the Marengo River watershed, which includes the Brunsweiler, Trout Brook, Billy Creek, and other waterways. So this version of the map is using the older National Wetland Inventory data that is based on aerial photography analysis. And you can see some mapped wetlands in green and then mapped streams and rivers in blue. And if we look at the small portion of the reroute proposal that's circled in pink, that's sort of in the middle of this map, when you look at that, you're not seeing any mapped surface water features in that small portion of the workspace.
Do you recognize this, Director Tillison?
Yes.
Can you describe this map?
Yes, this map is looking at the same geographic scope as the prior map. The difference here is this map is using the newest version of the National Wetland Inventory data, which is based on LiDAR. So we're seeing in this map more mapped wetlands and waterway features. And if we look at that same portion of the workspace that's circled in pink, you can see that there are surface water features that are mapped as part of this newer National Wetland Inventory data set.
Is mapping something that MNRD is concerned about?
Yes.
Is that an issue you raised previously?
Yes, we previously have raised concerns about mapping throughout our review of the proposed reroute project.
Director Tillison, can you identify this document?
Yes, this is an attachment prepared by the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department team discussing sediment and turbidity concerns associated with the proposed reroute project, and this attachment also includes some of our other case studies.
Is it common for MNRD to produce case studies?
Yes.
Who at MNRD is involved in producing case studies?
There are multiple programs who are involved in MRD to produce case studies, including our water resources, our non-local beings program, our environmental programs, and others.
How are you involved in producing case studies?
I sometimes help develop case studies. More often, I review case studies.
Can you describe what this case study is on page, that starts on page 2125?
Yes, this case study that we're looking at was prepared by the Mashkiziibii Natural Resource Department team, and this is specifically discussing concerns about sedimentation and turbidity relevant to the proposed reroute project.
Do you recognize this photo, Director Tillison?
Yes.
Would you please describe this image?
Yes, this is a photo that was taken last summer during the construction phase of Enbridge's project to install a check valve within the reservation boundaries. This photograph in the right side of the photograph, you can see construction matting that was installed over wetlands and uplands, and that was a measure installed to minimize impacts to wetlands. And then on the left side of this photo, this is the areas outside of the construction matting that you can see sediments and soil. You can see the soil being like pushed from underneath the construction matting, and you can see that very turbid or sedimentful water in the wetland that is being crossed by the matting.
And how does this case study inform MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
This case study informs our analysis of the reroute project because both projects have similar activities, including the use of construction matting. The construction matting is put in place to minimize impacts to wetlands. However, it was not our experience with this check valve project that those impacts were minimized with the use of the construction matting.
Director Tillison, can you identify this document?
Yes, it is the case study the department prepared specific to the Enbridge check valve project.
Would you explain what the check valve project is?
Yes. Last summer, Enbridge started construction on this project in May, mid-May of last year. This project was to install the first valve within the reservation boundaries. So this project involved using construction matting along the access route and then excavating the pipeline and installing a valve and then backfilling. A check valve is a different type of valve than the valves that are proposed for the reroute project. A check valve automatically closes on backflow and doesn't require the above-ground infrastructure that's required for other valve types.
And what is your involvement in reviewing the check valve project?
Yes, so I'm involved by overseeing the team that reviews this project, plus I review the project materials myself. And our team reviews the application materials, evaluates potential effects, and makes technical recommendations, and we also issue permits and approvals. Our technical recommendations in the Clean Water Act are presented to tribal leadership for review and approval. After permits and approvals were issued, our department continued to provide oversight on the Enbridge check valve project in regards to compliance with the conditions of the permits and approvals issued by the band. We have a staff member or representative in the field each day Enbridge's crew is in the field. And we're continuing to provide oversight on this project, as this project has not yet met the restoration performance criteria in the permit or approval conditions. I'm also the primary point of contact with Enbridge.
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Can you describe this photo?
Yes. So the aerial imagery used in this photo was collected by a contractor we hired to collect drone imagery. And then overlaid on top of that is some text and symbols. So you can see the extent of where the construction matting was placed is outlined in orange. And then beyond that extent of the construction matting, you can see there was disturbances outside of that due to vehicle traffic associated with the project that went off the mats.
Do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Can you please describe what this photo shows?
Yes, this is a photo of the check valve project site. This photo was taken last August as the construction phase of the project was wrapping up. So in this photo, sort of on the right-hand side, middle of the photo, you can see the construction matting that's used. More on the left and bottom left of this photo, you can see disturbance to vegetation that occurred off the mat, and that was due to vehicle traffic. In between the matting and where that vehicle traffic was, there is some vegetation, and you may be able to see the orange fencing that is partly around that vegetation. That orange fencing was only installed around that vegetation on the side closest to the construction matting because Enbridge provided assurances that vehicle traffic would stay on the construction matting. That orange fencing is installed to protect culturally important plants that are associated with this project. But again, the orange fencing was not installed around the whole population because of the insurances that the vehicle traffic would stay on the mat, but this photo shows that was not the case, and vehicle traffic did drive through this area where these culturally important plants were being protected.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Can you describe what this photo shows?
Yes, this is a photo of the Enbridge check valve project on the reservation. This photo was taken in July of 2024, so partway through the construction phase of this project. In the bottom portion of the photo, you're seeing the construction matting that is installed across the access route, including the wetlands and uplands. And above that construction matting in the photo, you're seeing soil that's pushed out underneath that matting, turbid and sediment-filled waters within this wetland area that supports amphibians, such as the frog that's pictured on the mat.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this photo?
Yes.
Can you describe this photo, please?
Yes, this photo is also from the Enbridge check valve project that occurred last summer on the reservation. This photo was taken mid-July, so partway through the construction phase. This photo is actually showing a drier area along the access route and the construction matting that's installed. And you can see in this photo that even in these drier areas, you're seeing some of that soil being displaced and pushed to the side due to the construction matting.
And what was the timeline for the check valve project?
Yeah, the check valve project, the construction phase started mid-May of 2024 and ran through the beginning of August of 2024. And the restoration phase is still ongoing as the project has not yet met the restoration performance criteria described in permits.
And how does this case study inform MNRD's analysis of the project, of the reroute project, excuse me?
Yeah, this case study informs our analysis of the reroute project because it describes our experiences on a recent Enbridge project that occurred on the reservation. And despite the best management practices like the construction matting, the permit conditions, and the assurances from Enbridge, we observed substantial impacts to the wetlands despite these measures being in place.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Can you explain what this document is?
Yes, this is another case study prepared by the Mashkiziibii Natural Resources Department. This is another case study pertaining to Enbridge project that was implemented within the reservation boundaries. And this case study is specifically describing the Naomi Creek tributary modification to an engineered riprap channel project.
And what was your involvement in this Naomi Creek project?
My involvement was I was one of myself and two of our contractors discovered this portion of the Enbridge pipeline exposed. And we notified Enbridge of that. That occurred in August of 2019. And then I oversaw the Natural Resources team who reviewed the proposal from Enbridge to rebury the exposed portion of the pipeline. And I also reviewed the materials myself. And our team evaluated the potential effects and made technical recommendations and also issued permits and approvals. And then after the permits and approvals were issued, we continued to provide oversight on this Enbridge project in terms of compliance with the permit conditions in the permits and approvals issued by the band. We had a representative in the field each day that Enbridge's crew was out in the field. And we continue to provide oversight of this project as it works through the different phases beyond construction into restoration.
Do you recognize the photos on the bottom right of that page?
Yes.
Can you describe what those photos are?
Yes. So these are different photos taken over time of this location of a Naomi Creek tributary. The map that's to the left of the photos gives you, it is based on LiDAR data and gives you a feel for the surface waters that are present at this site and nearby this site. So the top two photos are showing the area where the pipeline was exposed, but these photos were taken before the pipeline exposure, and they're a little bit challenging to see because of the brush that is there, but there is a small intermittent tributary that flows down this slope. And the bottom two photos are showing that intermittent tributary, but these photos are taken at the top of the slope, just after this tributary leaves the beaver pond that is symbolized on the map to the left.
Do you recognize the photos on the bottom half of this page?
Yes.
Can you describe the photos on this page? on the bottom half of this page.
Yes, the two photos to the left are showing, they're photos showing the exposed pipeline after we discovered the exposure and after Enbridge brushed that area. So a lot of erosion a lot of erosion occurred in this area where there's this intermittent Naomi Creek tributary. And then the third photo, the one on the right, this was taken during the construction phase of the project to rebury the pipeline. And this photo was taken in March of 2020. So this photo, you're actually looking down that slope or where that intermittent tributary used to flow, and you're seeing this construction engineered channel with the basin at the base of it.
What does it mean to be brushed?
Brushed just means to cut the vegetation. In this context, to cut the vegetation so you can have a better view of this area, either aerially or a better view so you can see the features on the ground surface.
And can you tell us a timeline for the Naomi Creek project?
Yes, so as I mentioned, we discovered the pipeline exposure in August of 2019, and the Naomi Creek engineered riprap channel project started in January of 2020. And the construction phase ran longer than anticipated, but did wrap up in March of 2020, and then since then there's been restoration occurring.
Is the restorations, can you talk more about the restoration timeline?
Yes, so the restoration phase we view as starting right after the construction phase. And before, there basically needs to be routine inspections of the best management practices, such as hay bales or silt fencing that are in place. There needs to be routine inspections occurring until the site is properly stabilized, and our permit and approvals indicate what that stabilization criteria is. So those inspections were happening throughout the beginning of this calendar year, and those inspections just stopped at the end of June of this year, so over 5 years later, because the site finally had met the vegetation stabilization criteria.
Does the Naomi Creek case study inform your analysis of the reroute project?
Yes.
Can you explain why?
Yes, the Naomi Creek tributary riprap project does inform our analysis of the reroute project in a couple different ways. They have similar activities, and they are both have gaps in their baseline data that's used to support their design of the project. In our experience with the Naomi Creek tributary modification project, those data gaps are what caused this project's design and implementation to fail. And we had to issue 2 emergency approvals during the construction phase because of these design and implementation failures. And we needed to issue those emergency approvals to try to further, or do what we can to prevent the situation from getting worse and having even more water quality effects. So that is a similarity between the Naomi Creek tributary project and the reroute project. Also, in our experience with the Naomi Creek project, the construction phase took twice as long as originally anticipated in the application materials. So this is also helps inform our experience with the reroute project, because we know that sometimes projects take longer than how they're described in application materials.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
Who produced this document?
This document was produced by Limnotech, a contractor that we hired.
Would you please give a brief summary of this document?
Yes, this document is the Bad River Band's draft request for a mercury variance for the band's wastewater treatment facilities.
Why did you, MNRD commission this report or document?
We commissioned this document because we needed support on evaluating current conditions of mercury in the watershed, including both on and off reservation, and also to evaluate factors that are affecting the current state of mercury in our region. And it also helped us reevaluate additional measures that we might be able to take to do what we can to reduce mercury from those facilities. Even though that's challenging because this document describes how there is mercury impairments due to human factors that are outside the band's control.
Why did the band attach this letter to the 401 determination letter?
We attached this to our 401 determination letter because it describes the current conditions of mercury in the watershed, including both on and off the reservation.
And how does this information regarding mercury inform MNRD's analysis of the reroute project?
This information regarding mercury informs our analysis of the reroute project because this document describes that currently mercury concentrations are elevated above state and tribal water quality criteria for mercury. And so this informs our analysis of the reroute because we already know there's mercury impairments in our area, and we have concerns about how the proposed project will affect those.
Can you identify the concerns that you referenced about mercury?
Yes, the concerns we have about the proposed reroute project in regards to mercury is how the proposed project activities will change and increase the methylation of mercury, and that is concerning to us because we already know that mercury is elevated and we're already impaired for mercury in these waterways.
Did MNRD review the wetland and waterway permit for the reroute project?
Yes.
Did MNRD identify concerns with the wetland and waterway permit for the reroute project?
Yes.
Are those concerns related to topics in this letter, the 40182 letter?
Yes.
Can you explain how they're related?
Yes, so our 40182 determination letter describes the effects of the proposed project on water quality and uses and functions, which are similar. The wetland and waterway permit is describing impacts and ways to minimize those impacts. So there's a lot of connections between the two documents.
I'd like to ask about condition 234 of the wetland and waterway permit, which I believe is on page 23. Yes. Are you familiar with this condition?
Yes.
Does MNRD have concerns with this condition?
Yes.
Can you explain what those concerns are?
Yes, this is one of the conditions that we have concerns about not truly minimizing impacts to wetlands. This condition allows the project proponent to exceed the wetland permit limitations that are described in the permit table 1. This condition also allows the project proponent to delay submitting information about if effects go beyond, if the actual wetland impacts go beyond the permit table. You can see the condition doesn't require submittal of that data until 30 days after the project is complete. And we know from the permit document that the project completeness might be up to 2 years or perhaps longer if the permit's extended. So we have concerns about the delay in getting that information and how that might affect the timing and success of restoration. We also it's unclear what will happen if the project proponent exceeds the wetland impacts described in Table 1. It's not clear if those impacts were really evaluated or how they would be mitigated, assuming that they can be mitigated.
Do you have any other concerns about wetland impacts from the reroute project?
Yes.
Can you generally describe those?
Yes, we're concerned with just the extent of the wetland impacts from the reroute proposal, with over 100 acres of wetlands being impacted. Some of these impacts include permanently changing forested wetlands to other wetland types, and that permanent change will result in a loss of functions. And we have concerns because this project is located upstream of the reservation. And since the reservation is located at the downstream third of this watershed, we're really dependent and rely on having healthy functioning wetlands and waterways and watersheds upstream of us in order to have, because that affects the water quality and uses on the reservation.
Director Tillison, which water body are you referring to in this section?
I'm referring to Bear Trap Creek.
Do you have concerns about Bear Trap Creek with relationship to the reroute project?
Yes.
And what are those concerns?
We are concerned because of our understanding that Bear Trap Creek's condition is currently impaired, and Bear Trap Creek already cannot currently fully support her uses, including cultural, wild rice, and aquatic life and fish. Bear Trap Creek, you might remember, is one of the high-quality waterways designated by Wisconsin and the band. And the most downstream reach of Bear Trap Creek is outstanding tribal resource water, where it supports wild rice habitat. So we are concerned because the proposed reroute project is going to directly cross Bear Trap Creek and 7 of her tributaries. And we didn't see evaluation specific to Bear Trap Creek. And again, our concern is because this creek's water quality is already impaired and cannot fully support uses.
And are there any issues that you've identified about Bear Trap Creek that are not listed in your direct written testimony?
Yes, so one concern that I did not specifically list is the fact that there does not seem to be any specific analysis completed for Bear Trap Creek. We understand Bear Trap Creek is a small stream. However, we think despite it being a small stream, it warrants additional site-specific analysis because of the reasons I pointed out, including being a high-quality waterway and being a waterway that supports wild rice in its downstream reaches, and the fact that this waterway is already impaired, and that documentation of impairment is both on and off the reservation. So we think Bear Trap Creek really deserves to have site-specific analysis, which we were not seeing.
And have you expressed these concerns on Bear Trap Creek to DNR?
Yes.
Starting on line 16, which water body are you referring to in this section?
Yes, in this section of my testimony, I'm referring to the Marengo River watershed. This is a watershed that includes the Marengo River, Brunsweiler River, Silver Creek, Trout Brook, Billy Creek, and other waterways and wetlands.
Is the Marengo River watershed important to the band?
Yes.
And generally, what is the importance of the Marengo River watershed?
Yes, so it's important for a couple reasons, including the Marengo River and the headwaters of this watershed starts off reservation and upstream of the reservation, but the downstream reaches of this watershed, including the Marengo, Brunsweiler, and some of their tributaries, are within the exterior boundaries of the reservation. So it's important because we need healthy functioning watersheds, and what happens upstream of the reservation does affect the health of these waters on reservation. And this is also important because tribal members have documented cultural uses in this watershed, including harvesting plants and fish.
Does MNRD have concerns about the project within the Marengo River watershed?
Yes.
And what are those concerns?
Yes, we are concerned because the Marengo River watershed also already has water quality impairments. The Marengo River watershed also has extensive partnership efforts that have happened over the last decade or two because the Marengo River watershed, it's known there is a lot of non-point source pollution that occurs in this watershed. The Marengo River is the largest sediment contributor to the Bad River. And because of these known impairments of excess sedimentation, nutrients, unstable hydrology, habitat loss and fragmentation, we are concerned because the proposed project is crossing the Marengo River, Brunsweiler River, and their tributaries and connected surface waters, that the proposed project are going to further degrade the functioning of this watershed and those water quality impairments, and basically unravel all the partnership efforts that have been happening over the last couple decades specific to this watershed to try to improve the health of this watershed.
Has MNRD expressed these concerns on the Marengo River watershed to DNR?
Yes.
Are there any concerns about the Marengo River watershed that is not listed in your direct testimony?
Yes, I did not specifically list out the water quality impairment concerns in my direct testimony, which I went over just shortly ago with the excessive sediment, nutrients, unstable hydrology, and habitat loss and fragmentation. Those are concerns that are described in more detail in the Partnership Marengo River Watershed Action Plan, which was first developed and approved by DNR in 2012 and approved by EPA in 2013. And then the partnership effort has recently updated that plan, and that includes Wisconsin DNR's participation. That updated watershed action plan was finalized in 2022, and we did not see reference to the updated version of the plan in the Wisconsin DNR's final environmental impact statement.
I have a few questions about the location of the reroute project. Dr. Tillison, have you been out to sites where the reroute project is located?
Yes.
Were you or your staff able to collect data from proposed project locations?
We were able to collect some data. However, a large portion of the proposed reroute project requires private landowner permission, which then limited our ability to collect data at all locations.
Have you ever been denied access to property where the proposed project is located?
Yes.
Is MNRD familiar with property ownership in the area?
Yes.
How does MNRD keep track of property ownership in the area?
We keep track of property ownership in the area a few different ways. We have recent copies of plat books purchased by the local counties. We also have an internal GIS system that includes land ownership data. We also use online parcel mappers, such as parcel mappers from Ashland and Iron counties.
Why does MNRD keep track of property ownership in the area?
It's important for us to keep track of property ownership in this area because it helps inform where we might be able to collect data. It also is important for collaborative efforts such as watershed planning, where it takes a community's efforts to try to improve the health of a watershed.
Are you familiar with Enbridge's property ownership in the area?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. This witness lacks personal knowledge. She's trying to speak about, she's the director of MRD, and she's trying to speak about Enbridge's property ownership issues. Object to representation. The specific question was whether she was familiar with it. Did I hear you right? The question is also.
Yes, the question was, are you familiar with Enbridge's property ownership in the area?
And so is your objection to the specific question or to the line of questioning? The line of questioning. Do you want to respond, Attorney Tillison?
Yes, Your Honor, Director Tillison just acknowledged that she has been denied access to property ownership and that she has also tried to collect data, that MNRD has tried to collect data, and we're just looking at the scope of property ownership and where she is able to access. I do have more lines of questioning about property, but happy to lay more foundation if that's required.
Any follow-up? I guess we'll see where the line of questioning evolves. If it pertains to her ability to go on private land along the route, that's different than if she's trying to bring in who owns which parcel. Let's take it one question at a time.
Director Tillison, are you familiar with the concept of an easement?
Yes.
What is your understanding of an easement?
An easement is an agreement between a landowner and an entity that describes a portion of property that is covered by the agreement to do things such as install or maintain a road, a pipeline, utility lines. And an easement describes the conditions of that agreement between the landowner and an entity.
Does MNRD process easements?
Yes.
And does MNRD keep track of property ownership outside the reservation boundaries?
Yes.
Which counties do you keep track of?
We keep track of land ownership in Bayfield, Ashland, and Iron counties.
And are you familiar with parcel maps?
Yes.
Director Tillison, do you recognize this document?
Yes.
What is it?
This document was part of the application materials, and it describes the landowners within the proposed reroute footprint or adjacent to them.
Do you see the column on the far left?
Yes.
And what is that column?
Sorry, I'm just gonna that column is tract name.
Do you have an understanding of what those tract names mean?
It appears to be an internal tracking system that identifies or makes a unique number per parcel.
Director Tillison, did you review this document prior to today?
Yes.
What is this document?
This document contains a variety of right-of-way and easements and other documentation related to property interests.
Director Tillison, do you see the line on this page that says Enbridge tract number?
Yes.
Is that the same number that you previously read from exhibits 568 and 617?
Yes.
Do any of the other property records in exhibit 110 contain tract numbers that appear in exhibit 568?
Yes.
On this document, Director Tillison, have you reviewed paragraph A before today?
Yes.
Can you please summarize your understanding of paragraph A?
Yes. Paragraph A is basically describing the purpose of the right-of-way or easement to construct, operate, and maintain a pipeline on this particular parcel.
And who appears to be receiving that interest?
Enbridge Energy?
And does the language of paragraph A appear in other documents in exhibit 110?
Yes.
I have no further questions.